What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Lowell PNW Sports. As promised today, as I talked about in the last video, we are doing Blazers recap. Blazers got a 122-112 win last night in Memphis against the Grizzlies. And then we will also wrap it up by talking about Super Bowl previews. So Chiefs versus Eagles, just initial reaction to the betting line, and how just kind of what I think about the matchup and who I'm kind of leaning towards. So with that, let's get started and talk about Blazers. Coming off kind of a stretch where they've been losing to mostly teams over 500, and their wins are kind of coming against teams that aren't so great. This was a really big road win, arguably probably their most impressive road win of this season. I think the only other road win I can think of that I would put up there is probably when they were on their road trip earlier this season, their first six game and 8-night road trip. And they beat the Phoenix Suns on the first night of the home fully loaded Suns team. And it was without Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard. So that was a huge road win, but I would equally put this up there with kind of where they've been at and considering a lot of the circumstances from last night. And we'll just kind of talk about how the whole game went. First quarter, Blazers got out to kind of a slow start, as they have been in these past couple first quarters, the last couple games. They were down double digits early. Jeremy Grant, I think, really got them going early and had hit a few shots to start the game as well. But Jeremy, I swear, every time he gets in the restricted area or gets the ball in the restricted area, that guy is going up to throw it down, and he did several times in the first quarter last night. And really kept the Blazers within reach until Damian Lillard kind of got it going towards the end of the first quarter. And, the game was a lot closer as the game went on than I honestly thought it was going to be, because Blazers had a couple early turnovers and just were not really locked in. And the Grizzlies by no means are a team to mess around with. Second seed in the East, they have been on a bit of a slide as of recent, I think losing the 5 out of the last 6. But on the road against a team like that, you can't make a lot of mistakes. And not to mention, Nurk going out with the calf injury in the first quarter, like a few minutes into the first quarter, being done for the rest of the game. So your entire front court is gone. So considering the circumstances, you've got Drew Eubanks and basically Trendon Watford, who they were playing basically at the 5 for the majority of the game, mixed in with some Jabari Walker and just playing a lot of smaller lineups. But yeah, I mean, as the game went on, second quarter, Dame started to heat up a little bit more. I think he posted 16 to 18 points before the half, and as we all know, just went scorched earth for the rest of the game, finishing 42 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds for a 6'1" guard. That's ridiculous. You can tell he is fully healthy. His first step is unbelievable. He is just so quick off the ball. He's manipulating defenses when he's getting in the paint, getting open looks for guys, and I mean, he's just unstoppable. When he's healthy, he's unstoppable. And so an incredible performance from Lillard again, as he's just been tearing it up lately. And then, he pretty much took over the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, and had a pretty good game as well. I mean, he was in foul trouble for a majority of the game. I think he only finished with 4 fouls, but he had the 4 fouls, I think, going into the fourth quarter, at least early in the fourth quarter. But came back still, I think, dropped 26 points, closed really, really well. But he had a really nice, solid game to complement Dame's. Jeremy actually didn't even play the second half. He took a fall right towards the end of the second quarter, and I thought, where he kind of went up, hit his back, and it looked like his head might have bounced off the floor. And I was thinking, like, oh, he looked like he was a little bit concussed. And so when he didn't come out in the second half, I wasn't like overly shocked. And so actually they threw Jabari out there, and he came in there, got a bucket or two, and they were rolling. I thought the defense overall played pretty well. I mean, all things considered, like I said, running out Trendon Watford out there basically at the 5, and Eubanks had another really solid game. He's, for as undersized as he is, the guy is everywhere. I mean, he's grabbing rebounds. He's throwing it down. Man, that dunk to kind of seal it at the end of the fourth was just unbelievable. I mean, he's an energizer bunny. I mean, he's the ultimate hustle guy. If Nurk had his assertion and his activity, I mean, Nurk would be, probably a top 5 big in the league easily. But neither here nor there. The thing I was most shocked about, especially, kind of talking about the Blazers' lack of front court depth and playing a lot of small ball last night, is the Grizzlies didn't try to expose any of that in the paint last night. They were settling for a lot of jump shots. Another person that got into foul trouble was Desmond Bane, which is really their only sharpshooter, I would say, on the Grizzlies. So he wasn't on the floor as much as he typically would have been, and he's a big proponent of what they do. And he didn't, even when he was in there, he wasn't shooting particularly well from the outside. So the Grizzlies were in a funk on the offense, but they didn't post up Jaren Jackson at all in the paint. And I'm thinking, like, why is he sitting on the 3-point line? Like, the dude is gigantic, and he'd be posting up against maybe Eubanks, but sometimes a Watford, and so I was just really confused by what the Grizzlies were trying to do. I think they just settled for a lot of just really bad shots, and worked in the Blazers' favor. I mean, Dame got really, really hot. They played pretty good team defense. I think GP2 had a really good game, kind of all over the place. As far as on the defensive, had some offensive output. But he's just kind of a pest. He's always in it. And yeah, I mean, I think overall just a pretty well-rounded game considering the circumstances. And yeah, a Blazers road victory to start off this road trip, which is just awesome. So kind of looking forward to the rest of the road trip. I have to check who they're going to next. I think the next game they play is on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and they play the Wizards on the road. So Wizards, obviously a pretty formidable team. I would say they're not an easy pass by any means. I think they're kind of in that where the Blazers are range. Kuzma's having a pretty good year. Beal's kind of always a threat. And I mean, they've got some players on that team. I think Porzingis is still out with the ankle injury. But should be a good matchup. See if they can get it, get 2 back-to-back on the road. If they could, get a winning record on the road trip, that would be, I think, tremendous for them. I'm really hoping they can finish strong going into the All-Star break. I think it's really important for kind of how they reset and what they focus on for the remainder of the year. And so we'll see. I'm definitely excited, but I'm really, really excited that I got to kick off this podcast, this video today, with a Blazers win. So with that, we will transition over to Chiefs versus Eagles matchup. So initially, when this matchup kind of came together, just harkening back to the AFC and NFC Championship game, this is kind of who I thought was going to end up playing. I didn't think that Brock Purdy was kind of good enough to overcome what the Eagles are. The Eagles are by far the best roster between these two teams. And so I'm not surprised that the Eagles kind of took care of business. I mean, obviously, 49ers having all the injuries in the championship game. I mean, they didn't really have a chance when you're playing your 4th-string quarterback. Your 4th-string quarterback gets hurt. And so Eagles are really, really formidable. And to me, I just don't think you bet against Patrick Mahomes. Bengals had a great season, obviously. And I wouldn't have been shocked if they would have won. They had every opportunity to do so. But Mahomes is Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the league right now, in my opinion. And so no surprise that he got it done. And even I would say on the defensive end, Chiefs were swarming, and Frank Clark and those guys just went to town and got it done. And so looking at this matchup, I think the line is set at about 1.5 right now in favor of the Eagles. So minus 1.5 Eagles. Which I guess I'm not too surprised considering the Mahomes ankle injury, but equally so, Jalen Hurts I know has been dealing with the shoulder too, and he didn't particularly look as good as you would hope he would in terms of throwing the ball. He was leaving a lot of throws short in the championship game, but like I said, with San Francisco being so depleted and their run game is just so strong, that's what kind of carried him and will continue to carry him. And the fact that if Jalen Hurts has his legs and can still somewhat throw, 80, 85, 90%, I think they'll be okay. But in terms of like kind of what I'm looking at for this matchup, it's really hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes. Like if I'm speaking honestly right now, I'm kind of picking the Chiefs just based on the experience factor. And I think the Eagles obviously have a better roster. I think they have a better recipe for winning this game. Both defensive lines are really, really good. I think Chiefs were like number 2 in sacks this year. Philadelphia, I think, was number 1 in sack rate this year as well in the NFC. Maybe it was in the NFL. I can't remember off the top of my head. But both can rush the quarterback really well. And both have pretty stout offensive linemen. I would say Philadelphia's got a little bit of a better offensive line. But I did see the news that one of I think it was the tackle, Sills, or guard or tackle, I can't remember off the top of my head, is not playing. He's on like a commissioner's exempt list for some off the field stuff that I won't really touch on here. But that's going to, I think, really greatly impact that game because you're down one really stud offensive lineman. That's gonna affect what Jalen Hurts and company are going to do. But they've got a bunch of other Rough Riders on that offensive line, and they've got some depth as well. So I think they'll be okay, but just something to look at. I'll be curious to see, kind of harkening back to the Mahomes and Jalen Hurts injuries, how that's going to impact the game. Thankfully, they get 2 weeks off, so hopefully Mahomes' ankle heals up a little bit more. I can tell it was kind of bugging him last game, and credit to him, he used his mobility when he needed to. He planted when he needed to make some off-script throws, but you can tell he was a bit uncomfortable. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays into it. I'm kind of riding Chiefs as of right now. That may change just depending on what kind of comes out in terms of matchups and injuries and all that kind of good stuff. But I expect everybody to be kind of ready to go. I think once the adrenaline kicks in, I think Jalen and Patrick will be just fine. I don't anticipate, unless anything happens in game, that we're not going to get anything less than a pretty, I think, extraordinary matchup. I think these teams match up pretty well against each other. I think the key for the Eagles, like with pretty much every other matchup they've had this year, is keeping Mahomes off the field. So, controlling clock. They have the run game to do so. Their rushing attack is just so dangerous, especially with what Jalen can do with his feet and some of that RPO. They're just so loaded from that standpoint. Sanders, Gainwell, they're just a pretty vaunted running attack, and they've got dudes on the outside. Devontae Smith is no schlub at all. He's kind of emerged this season after kind of having I would say a quieter rookie season after coming out of Alabama. And yeah, they're just a very, very, very a very complete team. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things shake out. I think for me, it's really going to come down to whose pass rush can get home the most. Because I don't know if Mahomes is going to be able to run around too much. But even if KC can get in there and disrupt, Jalen Hurts throws and make him throw, I think there's a lot of recipes for it to go either way. But overall, I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think the 1.5 points is pretty fair for a neutral site game. That's kind of what I would expect. But I just have a hard time betting against Patrick Mahomes. So, anyways, we'll keep kind of monitoring it, and I'll probably address it in this again before ahead of the Super Bowl, especially as we get more props. Not a ton that I saw as of right now. There's some really weird Super Bowl props. Like I think there's one like, is there going to be an octopus or not? Which I'm not really sure if that's like halftime show related or what that entails. But anyways, just something really funny that I saw as I was looking through props. I think the over-under for the game is set at like 50.5 points. I think as of right now, just based on I think based on the talent on the offenses, I think Philadelphia is going to try to control the clock if they can. So I think right now I'm kind of leaning towards the under, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if this went to the higher 20s, like a 27-24, or even into the 30s. I wouldn't be shocked if this game went to that point because Kansas City's back end is not very good. I think they've allowed the most red zone touchdowns this season on the back end. They have a lot of rookies back there, and they've got some guys that are hurt. So I don't know really what to expect. And Philadelphia hasn't exactly. I mean, they got a great defense, but they've given up a lot of points this year. They gave up a ton at the beginning of the season to Detroit and a ton to the Cowboys as well. I think in their first or second matchup. So I mean, they can be scored on too. They're by no means some juggernaut. So I think what it comes down to is the pass rushes and who's able to get home and disrupt a little bit. So, but anyways, I won't do any score picking. I think we'll touch that. We'll come back to this, before Super Bowl, and I'll post another video. And then I think we can, talk about final score, kind of what my thoughts are, and I'll probably hone on my pick. I'm still probably going to go with KC, but we'll see how things shake out and if anything changes. It's just so hard to pick this early because I feel like there's so many things that go on the week of the Super Bowl and so many things that come out. You just don't know, like the alignment for the Eagles, like that changes things. So we'll see. And I think with that, we'll kind of leave it there for now. As always, if you like the video, please drop a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel. I've really enjoyed doing this thus far. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. And if you've got any suggestions, anything around Super Bowl or anything else, NBA, let me know. I kind of, as we're getting closer to the trade deadline, so I kind of want to talk about not just looking at the Blazers, what they're doing, just kind of overall landscape, kind of where my thoughts are, kind of seeing where I think folks might land or players might land. So I'll definitely do something around that, and we'll probably have a video come out soon, probably in the next day or so. So with that, take care, y'all. We'll see you on the next video, and have a good one.